When the lightning flashed across the room, the blind girl flinched, and the maid realized something that could destroy them all. But that moment hadn't come yet. Before the lightning, before the truth, before the breaking, there was silence. The Hart Mansion stood on the edge of the city, like a memory no one dared to touch. A house of glass walls, marble floors, and quiet halls that seemed too wide for one family. Every morning, Henry Hart, billionaire inventor and widower, rose before dawn. His reflection stared back at him through floor-to-ceiling windows. A man who had everything except peace. His face was precise, expressionless, like a statue polished by grief. The staff moved around him like ghosts, knowing never to speak unless spoken to. Down the west wing, a piano whispered. The sound floated the corridors, soft, uncertain notes, as if searching for courage. That was Sandy, his daughter. She sat straight on the bench, fingers tracing the keys she could not see, eyes pale and unfocused. Her world was sound, the rustle of curtains, the low hum of the house generator, the soft click of her father's shoes whenever he passed by without stopping. She was born blind, they all said, and Henry never questioned again after the doctors declared permanent. To him, her blindness was a penance, a punishment he carried for surviving the night his wife didn't. That morning, a new presence entered the house. Mara, the maid. She wasn't from money. She wasn't from privilege. Just a 27-year-old woman with tired eyes and calloused hands, taking the job because her mother's hospital bills were piling up. The agency had told her, do not speak unless necessary. Mr. Hart values silence. But silence was something Mara had never been good at keeping. She stood at the edge of the mansion's grand hallway, staring up at portraits that seemed to look down on her. The head butler, Mr. Grayson, guided her briskly. Your duties are simple, he said. Dusting, meal assistance, and attending to Miss Sandy when needed. You will not enter the study or the master's wing. Understood? Yes, sir. Her voice was small, respectful. When she first met Sandy, it was accidental. She turned a corner and nearly collided with her. The girl was walking without a stick, palms out, humming softly. Oh, I'm sorry. Sandy laughed, a sound so bright it startled Mara. It's okay. People bump into me all the time. I guess I'm invisible. Her tone was teasing, not bitter, but something in those words sank into Mara like a stone. I'm Mara, she said, kneeling a little to match the girl's height. I know, Sandy smiled. I heard them talking about you. You sound warm. That single word made Mara blink. Warm. No one had called her that in years. Over the next few days, Mara watched how this strange household worked. Henry appeared only for meals, dinners eaten in silence, with his tablet beside the plate. He never looked directly at Sandy. He spoke with calm precision. Did you finish your piano lesson? Yes, Papa. Good. That was all. Afterward, he'd leave, and Sandy would sigh, tracing the outline of his untouched wine glass. Mara wanted to say something, to fill the quiet, but she didn't dare. Not yet. Still, she noticed things. When sunlight filtered through the dining hall windows, Sandy tilted her face slightly toward it, as though drawn to the warmth. When a bird flew past the glass wall, her head turned, perfectly following its motion. Mara told herself it was coincidence. Maybe Sandy was just listening. Maybe she'd learned how to predict things. But the feeling lingered, a whisper of doubt she couldn't shake. One night, after cleaning the east corridor, Mara found Sandy sitting alone on the marble floor. The lights were dim. The girl was facing the window, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Shouldn't you be asleep? Mara asked softly. Sandy smiled. I like listening to the rain. Her head tilted toward the glass. It sounded like dancing. Mara sat beside her. Do you imagine what it looks like? I do. Sandy's voice dropped to a whisper. But sometimes I feel like I know. Like, I remember what it looks like. Isn't that strange? Mara hesitated. You mean you remember seeing it? I don't know. She frowned. Maybe I just dreamed too much. For a moment, they sat in quiet companionship, two souls from different worlds bound by something invisible. Then Sandy asked, Do you think colors have sound? The question caught Mara off guard. Sound? Yes. Sandy smiled. Like, maybe blue sounds soft and red sounds loud. She turned toward her. If you had to guess, what sound do you think love makes? Mara's breath hitched. Love. Yes. Sandy giggled. My mom used to say it sounds like a heartbeat. Mara looked at her, this child wrapped in darkness yet glowing with light, and something deep within her chest ached. She wanted to protect her, to see for her, but all she could whisper back was, maybe your mom was right. In another part of the mansion, Henry stood in his study, listening to the faint laughter drifting through the hall. His hand tightened around his glass. For a split second his eyes softened, but then he shut the door, sealing himself back inside his prison of guilt. Outside, thunder rumbled. Inside, Mara and Sandy kept talking, their voices weaving to the sound of rain. Neither knew it yet, but the truth was already stirring, and before long, it would demand to be seen. Do you think love can survive in silence, or does it need to be spoken to be real? Tell us in the comments below. The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. Gray clouds pressed low against the mansion roof, and the air smelled of iron and storm water. Inside, the world was warm but uneasy. Thunder rolled across the sky, shaking the chandelier in the dining hall. Mara had spent the entire day polishing silver and trying to ignore the tension that seemed to hum through the house like static. Henry had barely spoken during dinner. He was on the phone the whole time, voice low, words clipped. Sandy sat quietly at the end of the long table, tracing the pattern of her plate with her fingertips. Mara stood in the corner, waiting to clear dishes, watching the silence eat at everyone. When the call ended, Henry rose. I'll be in my study, he said simply. Sandy nodded, smiling faintly. Good night, Papa. He didn't respond, or maybe he couldn't. His jaw tightened, and he walked out before the child's smile faded. Later that night, as thunder cracked overhead, the mansion lights flickered once, twice, and died. The generator failed. The grand house plunged into darkness. Mara froze in the kitchen, heart pounding. From the West Hall, she heard a small, frightened voice, Sandy's. Hello? Mara. Mara grabbed her phone, the dim screen barely enough to see. I'm here, sweetheart. Don't be scared. She found the girl standing near the piano, hugging herself. I don't like when it's dark, Sandy whispered. Mara knelt, brushing her hair gently. But you can't see the dark, right? Sandy hesitated. It feels different. Mara frowned. Different how? Before Sandy could answer, lightning split the sky. The room flared white for an instant, and Mara saw it clearly. Sandy flinched. Her pupils contracted. Her face turned toward the window, eyes wide, as if she saw it. Mara's breath caught. Sandy. The girl blinked, confused. What? Did you see that? See what? The light, Mara whispered. The lightning. Sandy tilted her head, uncertain. I don't know. It felt like something bright inside my head. Mara's hands trembled. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of rain filled the space between their words. Mara wanted to scream, to run to Henry's study and tell him, but something held her back. What if she was wrong? What if she lost her job? Or worse, what if she gave the girl false hope? Still, her mind raced. Pupils don't react to sound. Flinching was an instinct. It was vision. The power hummed back on. Warm light flooded the room, but Mara felt cold. Sandy had already gone back to the piano, humming softly, oblivious to the storm in Mara's mind. That night, sleep didn't come. Mara lay awake in her narrow maid's bed, the thunder echoing her thoughts. She replayed the moment again and again. The flash, the flinch, the unmistakable focus in Sandy's eyes. The next morning, she couldn't help herself. During breakfast, she began testing. Can you pass me the salt? She asked gently, setting the shaker an inch away from Sandy's hand. Sandy's fingers drifted, hesitated, then landed on it directly. Mara smiled softly. Good guess. I just remember where it was, Sandy said innocently. Later, while folding linens, Mara left a red ribbon on the floor near the piano bench. When Sandy walked in, her bare foot stopped just short of stepping on it. She bent down, frowning. "Who left this here?" Mara's heart pounded. "You found it." "I almost tripped on it." "But you didn't." "I guess I'm lucky," Sandy said, laughing. That same bright laugh that made Mara's chest ache. Lucky, or something else entirely. That evening, Henry returned early. The storm had cleared, replaced by a golden calm that soaked the marble floors with sunset light. Mara waited until the butler left before she spoke. "Sir, may I have a moment?" Henry didn't look up from his laptop. "Make it quick. It's about your daughter." Now he looked up. His gaze was sharp, not cruel, but wary. "What about her?" "She—" Mara hesitated, her heart hammering. "I think she might be able to see, even a little." The silence that followed was heavy. Henry's expression didn't move for several seconds. Then his jaw set. "Don't." "Sir." He stood abruptly. "My daughter was born blind." "I know what they said," Mara replied softly, trembling. "But I saw her react to lightning last night. Her pupils." "Enough." The word cracked through the air like a gunshot. Henry stepped closer, his face hard. "You will not fill her head with false hope. Do you understand?" Mara's eyes stung. "I would never—" "You're new here," he interrupted. "You don't know what this family has already suffered. Don't pretend you care more than I do." He turned away. The conversation was over, but as he reached the door, his voice faltered just slightly. "She was born blind," he repeated, softer this time, almost like he was trying to convince himself. When he left, Mara collapsed into a chair, tears stinging her eyes. She should stop. She should. But the image wouldn't leave her. Sandy's flinch, the look of instinctive sight. Down the hall, she heard the faint sound of piano keys again. Sandy playing something gentle, hesitant. Mara wiped her eyes and whispered to herself, "Then why can she see the lightning?" The question hung in the air like a promise. That night, Henry sat alone in his study, staring at an old photograph of his late wife holding a baby, Sandy, under the warm glow of morning. His thumb traced the child's eyes. "She was born blind," he murmured again, but the words trembled now. Outside, a faint rumble of thunder rolled in the distance, softer this time, almost like a warning. Inside, somewhere in the quiet corridors of his mansion, a truth was waiting to be found. If you saw something that could change someone's life, but no one would believe you, would you still speak up? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The mansion always woke before sunrise. By 6, the staff moved like ghosts through polished halls, their shoes whispering over marble, their voices hushed. But this morning, Mara was already awake, long before the others. She stood by the wide corridor window, staring at the gray light seeping through the mist. Her reflection in the glass looked haunted, pale, questioning. She had dreamed of lightning again, and of Sandy's eyes, open wide, glimmering with something that wasn't supposed to be there. When she turned, Henry was there, watching her from the hall. "You're up early," he said quietly. Mara straightened. "So are you." He stepped closer, coffee mug in hand. "I couldn't sleep." She hesitated, then asked, "Because of what I said?" His silence was answer enough. He sighed. "You don't understand what you're suggesting. I've spent years taking her to every specialist in the country. Every one of them said the same thing: optic nerve underdeveloped. No chance of vision." Mara's voice was gentle but firm. "Then explain how she reacts to light, sir." Henry looked away. "You saw what you wanted to see." "Maybe," she whispered. "Or maybe you're afraid to see what's changing." That earned her a sharp look. His expression hardened, but his eyes, those tired, grief-worn eyes, betrayed something else. "Fear." He didn't reply. He simply turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the long corridor. Later that morning, Mara was in the library with Sandy. The child's laughter rang softly between shelves lined with old books. "Close your eyes," Mara said, arranging a few objects on the table: a bell, a silk scarf, and a small wooden cube. "They're already closed," Sandy said with a giggle. Mara smiled. "Okay, now tell me which one I'm holding." She lifted the cube silently. Sandy tilted her head. That's the one that smells like cedar. Right. Mara switched the scarf. And this? Sandy hesitated, her brows furrowing slightly. It looks soft. Mara froze. Looks. Sandy frowned, confused. I mean, it feels soft. But her voice wavered. Her little fingers moved hesitantly, as if the word looks had slipped from somewhere deeper than memory. Mara reached across the table and took her hand. Sandy, do you ever dream? Yes. What do you see in your dreams? Colors, she said softly. They move around me. They dance. Mara's throat tightened. Do you know what color is? Sandy smiled shyly. You told me once. You said it's how the world smiles back at you. Mara's eyes glistened. That's right. But before she could say more, the library door creaked open. Mrs. Greaves, the head housekeeper, stepped in, her expression sharp, her voice cool. Miss Mara, word, please. Mara stood quickly. Of course. As soon as they stepped into the hall, the older woman's voice turned cold. You're here to follow orders, not to fill the child's head with nonsense. Mara stiffened. I'm not. Don't play innocent, Mrs. Greaves interrupted. Mr. Henry's been unsettled since your little observation. The last thing this household needs is false hope. That girl's been through enough. She's a child, Mara said quietly. Hope isn't dangerous. The housekeeper leaned in. Around here it is. Their eyes locked, a quiet war of conviction and fear. Do your job, Mrs. Greaves said finally, her tone final, or you'll find yourself without one. She walked away, her steps sharp as knives. That evening, Mara tried to keep her distance, but it was impossible. Sandy's questions grew bolder, her curiosity endless. Mara, why do people close their eyes when they're happy? Sometimes we close them to remember, Mara replied. And why do you look sad when you think I can see? The question stopped her cold. Mara knelt beside her. Because it's complicated. Is it bad? No, sweetheart. It's beautiful, but not everyone's ready to believe it yet. Sandy smiled, as if understanding more than she should. Then we'll show them. Those 4 words sent a chill through Mara. They sounded like promise and prophecy. Night came quietly, but peace didn't follow. Henry sat alone in his study again, a glass of whiskey untouched beside him. He had dismissed the staff early, saying he needed time to work, but his laptop screen was dark. Instead, he sat staring at the old family photo again, his late wife, smiling under the same golden light that had once filled this house with warmth. He remembered her last words before the accident. Take care of our girl, no matter what it costs. He closed his eyes, and for the first time, he whispered to the empty room, What if I've been keeping her in the dark too long? Mara couldn't sleep. She rose quietly and crept down the hallway towards Sandy's room. The door was half open. Moonlight spilled across the floor. Sandy sat upright in bed, eyes open, staring toward the window. Mara froze. The girl's gaze followed the soft movement of curtains swaying in the wind. She smiled faintly, whispering, The moon is out tonight. Mara's breath caught. Her voice trembled. Sandy, how do you know that? Sandy turned toward her. Because I can feel it, and maybe I can see it too. Her eyes glimmered in the silver light. Soft, alive, uncertain but aware. Mara covered her mouth with trembling hands. Outside, the moon climbed higher, silent and bright, casting its truth on both of them. In the shadows of the corridor, someone else was watching. Henry. He had come to check on his daughter after hearing her voice, and now he stood frozen, unseen. He saw Mara kneel, whispering to Sandy with tears in her eyes. He saw his daughter's face turn toward the moonlight, and for the first time in years, something inside him cracked open, something like hope, something like fear. He stepped back before they noticed, retreating into the dark. By the time Mara turned around, the hall was empty. If you discovered a truth that could heal someone, but it might destroy your place in their world, would you still fight for it? Share your answer in the comments. The next morning, the house felt unsettled. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was watchful. The staff avoided Mara's eyes, whispering in corners. Even Mrs. Greaves, who usually moved with clipped efficiency, kept her tone unusually soft when she addressed Henry. Henry noticed it all. The glances, the murmurs, the weight of something unspoken moving through his home. And though he told himself he didn't believe it, that it was impossible, a small, traitorous part of him kept replaying that moment in the corridor. Sandy's face turned toward the moonlight. That image followed him into his office, into his shower, even into his dreams. He called a doctor that afternoon, one who specialized in pediatric neurology. He didn't tell anyone. He just said quietly, "I'd like a private consultation to state." When the doctor arrived 3 days later, he was discreet, middle-aged, composed, the kind of man used to handling delicate situations for powerful people. Sandy greeted him shyly, clutching her stuffed bear. Henry stood by the window, arms crossed. Mara lingered near the doorway, trying to look invisible. The doctor began his series of gentle tests, sound, touch, balance. Then came the visual prompts. He flashed a low light. Sandy flinched. Mara's breath caught. Henry's jaw tightened. "Again," the doctor said. He dimmed the room further, raising the light slightly. Sandy blinked and tilted her head. "It's brighter now." Henry looked at Mara, stunned. The doctor's brow furrowed. She described the change. He ran another sequence. Different colors, different intensities. Sandy identified the red light correctly. Then the blue. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Finally, the doctor turned toward Henry. "Mr. Henry, her optic response is partial, minimal but present. I can't explain it without further tests, but it's not complete blindness." Henry's face went pale. He whispered, "That's impossible." "Apparently not," the doctor said softly. "Sometimes the brain finds new pathways, especially in children." Mara's eyes glistened. Henry dismissed everyone with trembling composure. "Thank you, doctor. We'll be in touch." When the doctor left, only Henry, Mara, and Sandy remained. Sandy yawned. "Can I go play now, Daddy?" He nodded weakly. "Of course, sweetheart." When she was gone, silence stretched between the adults, dense, electric. "You were right," Henry said at last, his voice rough. "I don't know how, but you were right." Mara didn't gloat. She simply said, "She was never broken, sir. Just waiting for light." His eyes flicked toward her, searching, almost pleading. "Do you think she knows?" Mara hesitated. "Maybe not what it means, but I think she feels it." He nodded slowly, then turned away, pacing. "I've kept her hidden from the world, protected her from questions, from pity for me. She doesn't need protection," Mara said gently. "She needs to live." Her words pierced something deep inside him. He clenched his fists, staring at the portrait of his late wife above the fireplace. She used to say the same thing. Mara followed his gaze. "Your wife." He nodded. She believed Sandy would see someday. She said it like a promise. I called it denial. The air between them thickened with quiet grief. Mara spoke softly. Maybe she wasn't wrong. He turned, his eyes meeting hers, weary but burning. And if she wasn't, then every day I kept Sandy in the dark was my fault. Mara stepped closer. "Then let today be the day you stop." From that morning on, everything began to shift. Henry started spending more time with Sandy. Slow, hesitant moments of reconnection. He joined her piano lessons, helped her feed the garden birds, even allowed Mara to open the curtains during breakfast. The staff whispered again, but this time the whispers sounded like wonder. The mansion, once cold and quiet, began to breathe. Sandy laughed more, and even Henry's laughter returned in small, uncertain bursts. Sometimes he would stop mid-laugh, startled by the sound of his own joy. One afternoon, as rain began to fall, Sandy sat by the window, tracing the droplets on the glass. Mara stood behind her, folding laundry when Sandy said, "The rain looks like tiny pearls today." Mara froze. "Looks." Sandy smiled. "Yes, like the necklace you wear sometimes." Her small voice carried an innocence that shattered and healed at the same time. Henry entered just in time to hear it. He leaned against the doorway, silent. He didn't correct her. He didn't remind her of blindness. He just stood there, tears in his eyes, whispering to himself, "She's really seeing." Mara turned. "Yes, she is." Their eyes met, and for the first time, there was no distance between them. Just two people who had carried grief in different forms, now watching a miracle unfold. But peace, as always, is never permanent. That night, while Henry reviewed Sandy's old medical files, he found something that shouldn't have been there. A sealed envelope addressed to his late wife, dated 6 months before her death. It was from a research hospital, the same one where Sandy had undergone her last scan. Henry tore it open. His eyes scanned the words, and his face drained of color. Induced cortical suppression observed. Temporary optic disconnection achieved. Funding provided through private donor authorization, YH. He froze. YH, Evelyn Henry, his wife. His pulse thundered in his ears. The report described an experimental procedure, one designed to suppress sensory overload in infants at risk of neural damage. The test subject's name, Sandra Henry. The result, vision impairment sustained. Henry dropped the paper. The truth hit him like a physical blow. His wife had agreed to the procedure. She had caused blindness, believing it would save their daughter's brain from degenerative failure. His hands trembled. The room spun. Mara found him like that minutes later, white as the paper scattered across the floor. "Mr. Henry," she whispered. He looked up, eyes wild. "It wasn't an accident. It was her, Evelyn, she—" His voice broke. He sank into a chair, clutching the report like a wound. Mara knelt beside him. "You couldn't have known." He laughed, hollow and broken. "I built an empire, Mara. I controlled everything, except the truth under my own roof." She placed a hand on his arm. "Now that you know, you can do what she couldn't, set Sandy free." He met her gaze, eyes red, jaw tight. "And what if it destroys what little she remembers of her mother?" Mara's voice was soft but steady. "Truth doesn't destroy, Henry. Lies do." Outside, thunder rumbled across the horizon, the same sound that had started it all. And somewhere upstairs, Sandy stirred in her sleep, whispering, "The lightning's coming again." Would you want to know a painful truth if it meant you could finally heal, or would you rather live in the comfort of what you believe? Share your thoughts in the comments. The storm came early that night. Thunder crawled across the sky like an unhealed scar. In the library, Henry sat surrounded by open folders, medical charts, and letters written in his wife's delicate handwriting. The desk lamp flickered as wind pressed against the windows. Mara entered quietly, carrying a tray of tea, though she knew he wouldn't drink it. He didn't look up. His eyes traced each line of Evelyn's writing like they were pieces of a life he no longer recognized. "Read this," he murmured, sliding a page toward her. Mara hesitated before taking it. The letter was dated years ago, written after Sandy's birth. "My dearest Henry, they said the seizures could return. I couldn't bear the thought of losing her, so I agreed to Dr. Meyer's procedure. They promised it was temporary, that it would save her life. If she can't see for now, then at least she will live. Please forgive me. Evelyn." Mara lowered the page slowly. She thought she was protecting her. Henry laughed bitterly. "She didn't protect her. She punished her. And I helped. I let her convince me that isolation was safety." He rose abruptly, pacing before the fire. "I shut the world out. I turned this house into a cage." Mara stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "You turned it into a sanctuary, Henry, because you loved her." He stopped, his shoulders tense. "Love? You call this love? I built a wall so high, my daughter grew up thinking darkness was her destiny." "You did what you knew," Mara said gently, "and now you know better." He turned toward her, the firelight catching the wet glint in his eyes. "Do you really believe a man can make that right?" "Yes," she whispered, "if he's brave enough to try." For a moment, the air between them thickened, charged with unspoken emotion. Then a sound broke the silence, a soft melody from upstairs. The piano. They exchanged a look, both startled. Sandy sat on the piano bench, her small hands moving lightly across the keys. The melody was halting but recognizable, a lullaby Evelyn used to hum. Henry froze in the doorway. "That song," he whispered. Mara's heart clenched. She said she heard it in her dream last night. Sandy looked up, smiling faintly. "It was Mommy's song. I can see it when I play." Henry knelt beside her, his voice trembling. "You can see it?" "Yes," Sandy said simply. "It's golden, like sunlight in the water." Tears slipped down his face. He reached out and held her small hand, pressing it against his chest. "Your mother would have wanted this, Sandy, for you to see the light again." Sandy tilted her head. "Is she still here, Daddy?" He hesitated, his voice breaking. "In a way, yes." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Then tell her thank you." Later that night, after Sandy had fallen asleep, Mara found Henry still sitting in the music room, staring at the piano. The thunder had passed. Rain whispered against the windows. "I keep hearing her voice," he said softly. "Evelyn. She used to play this song every night when Sandy was sick. She said music helped her breathe easier." He paused, his voice tight. "I told her it was false hope. I told her to stop dreaming." Mara sat beside him. Dreams don't always lie. Sometimes they just take longer to come true. He turned toward her, searching her face. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Say things that make me hate myself a little less." Mara's lips curved faintly. "Maybe because I've hated myself too." He frowned, studying her. "For what?" "For running," she admitted quietly. "Before I came here, I was taking care of a little boy in another home. He died in my arms from an asthma attack. His parents blamed me, and I believed them, so I left." Henry's expression softened. "Mara, I came here because I thought I could hide behind someone else's pain," she continued. "But your daughter, she made me remember what it means to fight for life again." Henry swallowed hard. "And you gave her something I never could, faith." Their eyes met, and for the first time there was no barrier class, guilt, or fear. Only two souls scarred in different ways, finding fragile understanding. "Mara," Henry said quietly, "you've changed everything in this house. In me." She looked away, fighting tears. "Then don't let it end with me. Henry, let it end with the truth." The next morning, Henry did something unthinkable. He called a press conference. The media had hounded him for years, curious about the reclusive billionaire who vanished from public view after his wife's death. But now he invited them in. The grand foyer filled with cameras, journalists, and light. So much light. Sandy stood beside him, clutching Mara's hand. Henry began to speak. His voice was steady but full of emotion. "My daughter was born with a condition that took her sight. For years, I believed her blindness was permanent. But I was wrong. She was never beyond hope. This home was built on silence and fear. But she has shown me that light is something you carry inside you, even in the dark." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Flashbulbs popped like sparks. He smiled faintly at Sandy, who tilted her face toward the sound. "Her recovery is still uncertain. But what's certain is this: love, not blindness, is what has defined our lives. And today we begin again." Mara's eyes shimmered. The crowd erupted in gentle applause. And for a moment, it felt like the house itself sighed with relief, as though the ghosts had finally been given peace. That evening, the three of them stood on the terrace. The sky was still wet with the aftertaste of rain. Sandy turned to Mara. "Do you think Mommy saw us today?" Mara knelt, brushing a curl for her cheek. "I think she never stopped watching." Henry nodded, his voice low. "And maybe now she's smiling." Sandy grinned. "Then we should smile too." The child lifted her arms, feeling the cool wind, the faint shimmer of fading sunlight. Mara and Henry stood behind her, their hands almost but not quite touching. The distance between them now wasn't fear. It was something softer, something waiting. If forgiveness could bring back light to the darkest place in your heart, would you choose it? Even if it meant facing what you've buried? Tell us what you think in the comments below. The following weeks were unlike anything the house had ever known. The silence that once filled the halls was replaced by laughter, light, imperfect, alive. Henry had begun joining Sandy and Mara in the garden each morning. The once lonely man now sat cross-legged on the grass, listening as Sandy described the world she was beginning to sense. She couldn't fully see yet. Her vision came in bursts, soft outlines and flashes of color, but her joy made it feel like sunlight was being poured back into the world. "Daddy, the roses smell like Mommy's perfume," she said one morning, her voice bright. Henry smiled faintly. "Your mother loved this garden. She planted every one of these herself." Sandy turned toward Mara. "Did you ever plant flowers, Miss Mara?" Mara laughed softly. "Once or twice, but they never looked as beautiful." "That's because Mommy helped from heaven," Sandy said with complete conviction. Henry and Mara exchanged a glance, and for a moment, it wasn't just a child who believed it. The staff, once cautious and distant, now found themselves smiling more often. The chef began baking again. The housekeeper hummed while sweeping. Henry noticed it all. "You've woken this place up," he told Mara one morning as they watched Sandy help set the table. Mara shook her head. "Sandy did that." Henry's gaze lingered. "No, you did. I was lost before you came." She tried to deflect, busying herself with the silverware. "Maybe we were both just waiting for a reason to start again." Henry chuckled softly. "You sound like my late wife when you say things like that." Mara looked at him curiously. "Do I?" "She used to tell me, Henry, broken things aren't ruined. They're just waiting for someone patient enough to understand them." Mara smiled. "Then she must have been a wise woman." "She was," he said quietly, "and I think she would have liked you." For a second, Mara froze, not from fear, but from the way his words seemed to reach somewhere deep inside her chest. That afternoon, Sandy sat by the piano again. The sunlight slipped through the tall windows, spilling golden patterns on the floor. "Play something," Henry encouraged. Sandy hesitated, fingers trembling slightly. "I'm scared I'll forget." "You won't," Mara assured. "Close your eyes and listen to your heart." Sandy nodded, then began to play. The notes were soft and uneven at first, but then, like something magical, the melody smoothed out. Her small face lit up. "I can see it again," she whispered. "It's not blurry this time. Daddy, I can see your face." Henry froze, tears rushing to his eyes. He knelt beside her, heart pounding. "You can? What do I look like?" Sandy giggled through tears. "Like a happy bear." He laughed, a real laugh, deep and unguarded, and scooped her into his arms. "Then I'll be your happy bear forever." Mara stood a few feet away, her own eyes glistening. It felt like watching a wound heal right before her, something once broken mending itself with light and love. Later that evening, Mara was dusting in Henry's study when she found a small sealed envelope tucked inside a book of poetry. The handwriting made her heart skip. It was Evelyn's again. The letter was addressed to "Whoever finds this. If you are reading this, it means you've touched this house with kindness. Please take care of Henry and Sandy. My love for them was deep, but imperfect. I see now that love cannot live in silence. Tell them it's okay to live again, even if I am gone. Evelyn." Mara's fingers trembled as she read. Her throat tightened with emotion, as though the woman had reached out through time to give her permission to stay. That night, Mara stood by the window, watching the moonlight spread across the garden. She whispered, "I promise, Evelyn, I'll keep them safe." But as she turned to leave, she noticed something on the floor near the bookshelf, a small, broken piece of a mirror frame, and behind it, an old photograph. Henry, Evelyn, and a dark car in the background, dented, scratched. The date on the back read, 2 weeks before the accident. Mara frowned. Accident? The official story was that Evelyn died of an illness, not a crash. Her heart thudded. Something didn't add up. The next morning, Mara couldn't stop thinking about the photo. During breakfast, she asked carefully, "Henry, you said Evelyn passed after Sandy's surgery, right?" He nodded, distracted by Sandy's chatter. "Yes. She never recovered from the strain." Mara hesitated. "Was there ever a car accident?" Henry's hand froze midair. The silence that followed was sharp. Even Sandy stopped talking. Sensing the shift, "Mara," Henry said slowly, "where did you hear that?" "I found a picture. The car was damaged. It had the same date you mentioned. Henry's jaw tightened. That photo should have been destroyed. Her stomach turned. Why? What really happened? He stood, his voice low but trembling. Not now. Please. Mara wanted to push, but the pain in his eyes stopped her. Instead, she simply whispered, "Secrets don't heal people, Henry. They hurt them." He looked away, whispering almost to himself, "You think I don't know that?" And with that, he walked out, leaving his tea untouched and Mara's heart pounding with fear that the light she'd helped him find was about to be swallowed again by the past. That night, as the house went quiet, Mara stood in Sandy's room, watching her sleep peacefully. The child's face glowed softly in the moonlight. But downstairs, Henry sat alone in the study, staring at the same photograph Mara had found. His fingers traced the dented car. His reflection trembled in the glass. And as he whispered Evelyn's name, one tear slipped down his cheek. "I told you I'd never let him know the truth, but maybe it's time." Sometimes healing uncovers the very truth you spend your life hiding. If you were in Henry's place, would you tell the truth or protect what peace remains? Share your thoughts in the comments. The storm that night was unlike any the mansion had seen in years. Wind howled to the iron gates, rain lashed against the glass, and thunder cracked like old bones breaking open. Inside, Henry sat at his desk. The photograph spread before him, Evelyn's handwriting beside it. His hand trembled as he poured a drink, though he barely tasted it. In the hall, Mara lingered in silence. She had come to ask him to talk, but something about the look in his eyes earlier had frightened her, not anger, but unbearable guilt. She turned to leave when a voice came from behind. "Don't go." Henry's voice was low, hoarse. "If you walk away now, I'll never be able to say it." Mara slowly turned back, her pulse racing. "Say what?" He gestured to the chair across from him. "The truth." Henry took a shaky breath. "Evelyn didn't die from illness." Mara sat slowly, her heart hammering. "She died in that car," he continued, staring at the rain. "And I was driving." The words hit like a blow. For a long moment, only the thunder answered. He went on, his voice breaking. "We had fought that night. She accused me of neglecting her, of caring more about my company than my family. I'd been drinking, not much, but enough. She wanted to leave. I tried to stop her. I grabbed the wheel." His voice cracked, and he pressed his palms to his face. Mara's breath caught. "Oh, Henry, she died instantly," he whispered. "And Sandy, she was in the back seat. Her eyes, the glass." He couldn't finish. The horror of it sank into the room like smoke. Mara's hands trembled on her lap. So her blindness, it wasn't from birth? He shook his head. "The doctors lied for me. I paid them to call it congenital damage. I couldn't bear the truth that her blindness was my fault." Tears slipped down his face. "I killed the woman I loved. I destroyed my daughter's sight. And I've been pretending it was all fate." He laughed bitterly, a sound that cracked. "And then you came, this kind, stubborn girl who made her smile again, and I saw Evelyn in you. Every word, every gesture. I didn't deserve that mercy." Mara's eyes filled with tears. "You were trying to protect her. You thought keeping it secret would save her. But it didn't," he said hollowly. "She's still blind because of me." Mara shook her head firmly. "No, Henry. She's healing because of you, because you stayed, because you loved her." He looked up at her, broken. "You should hate me." She hesitated, then whispered, "I don't." He rose abruptly, pacing toward the window. "You don't understand. If she remembers, if she finds out what I did, she'll never forgive me." Mara stood too. "Then don't let her remember alone. Be there when she does." He turned sharply, eyes dark. "You think it's that simple?" "I think love is the only thing that makes the truth survivable." For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other, soaked in silence, thunder echoing between them. And then the dam broke. Henry took a step closer, his voice raw. "You've changed everything. I thought I was buried. Then you walked into my house and gave it breath again. But you deserve better than a man haunted by ghosts." Mara's throat tightened. I didn't come here looking for better, Henry. I came looking for something real. Their eyes locked, a moment of unbearable closeness, and then Henry stepped back, pain twisting his face. You should leave, he whispered, before I destroy the only good thing left. Mara's breath hitched. Don't do this. Please. His voice broke. Go. Rain slammed harder against the glass as she turned and walked out, each step heavy, final. In her room, Mara collapsed on the edge of her bed. Her chest burned with heartbreak, not just for herself, but for the man and the child she had grown to love. She whispered into the storm, he's breaking himself to protect what's already broken. Downstairs, Henry sat in darkness. Sandy's laughter from earlier echoed in his mind, colliding with the sound of screeching tires. The memory that never left him. He lifted the photo one last time. I'm sorry, Evelyn, he murmured. I kept my promise, but I don't know if I can anymore. Then he picked up his phone and called his lawyer. Prepare everything, he said quietly. Mara will take custody of Sandy if anything happens to me. That night, Henry dreamed of the crash. Evelyn's scream, Sandy's cry, glass shattering, and then Evelyn's voice whispering from the wreckage. You can't save her by hiding. He jolted awake, drenched in sweat. The storm had passed. The first hint of dawn was creeping through the windows. He rose shakily, went to Sandy's room, and sat beside her bed. Her small hand rested on her pillow, peaceful. I'm so sorry, my little one, he whispered. Daddy made a terrible mistake, but I promise I'll make it right, even if it costs me everything. If someone you love hurt you deeply, but their remorse was real, could you ever forgive them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The house was quiet by morning, but something had shifted in the air. Mara, who had been silently packing her things, paused when she saw the sun spilling through the windows. Something inside her told her she couldn't leave yet, because forgiveness, the kind that heals, wasn't meant to happen away from people, but with them. The next morning, the mansion felt unusually still. No laughter echoed through the halls. No piano keys hummed. Even the birds seemed hesitant to sing. Mara stood in the doorway of Sandy's room, watching the little girl sleep peacefully. Her small hand was curled around a stuffed rabbit, the same one she'd held since the first night Mara arrived. Mara's suitcase stood beside her. She had planned to leave quietly. No goodbyes, no scenes. But as she looked at Sandy, her chest tightened. How do you walk away from a child who made you believe in miracles again? Her phone buzzed. A message from Henry. Meet me in the garden before you go. Please. The morning light was soft and golden when she stepped outside. The roses glistened from the night's rain, and Henry stood by the bench where Evelyn used to sit, hands clasped, eyes tired but resolute. He looked like a man who hadn't slept, but also like someone who had made a decision. You came, he said quietly. I almost didn't. I know. For a moment, they just stood there, the sound of distant birds between them. Henry exhaled shakily. I called my lawyer last night. If anything ever happens to me, Sandy goes to you. Mara froze. What? No, Henry. He raised a hand. Please, let me finish. He took a breath. You told me love only survives through truth. And you were right. So I'm going to tell her everything. About the accident. About her mother. About me. Mara's eyes widened. Henry, are you sure? No, he said with a faint, sad smile. But I'm done running. She stepped closer. Then I'll stand with you when you do. He blinked, startled. After everything I told you? Yes, she said softly. Because forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to love anyway. Later that morning, Sandy woke up to find both of them sitting by her bedside. She smiled sleepily. Are we going somewhere? Henry took her small hand in his. Yes, sweetheart. Somewhere important. They led her to the garden, the place where she'd first started seeing light again. Sandy, Henry began gently, there's something Daddy needs to tell you. Something about Mommy and about your eyes. Sandy tilted her head. Is Mommy sad in heaven? Henry's voice trembled. No, Angel, but Daddy is, because he made a mistake a long time ago. The day Mommy went to heaven. Daddy was driving the car. Silence. Sandy blinked. You mean you crashed? He nodded slowly, tears slipping down his face. Yes, and the glass hurt your eyes. It wasn't your fault or God's. It was mine. Mara knelt beside them, one arm around Sandy. The little girl frowned, then reached out and touched his cheek. But you didn't mean to, right? Henry shook his head, sobbing quietly. No, baby, I'd give anything to change it. She was quiet for a long time, then whispered, Then it's okay. Mommy says accidents don't make bad people. They make sad ones. Henry broke then, fully, openly. He pulled her close and held her, shaking, while she patted his face like she was the adult comforting a child. It's okay, Daddy. I can see again now. Mommy helped, and Miss Mara did too. Mara's throat ached as she whispered, Your mother will be proud of both of you. Later that day, after Sandy went to rest, Henry and Mara stood by the piano. He looked drained but lighter, like a man who had finally stopped carrying a mountain. She forgave me, he said, disbelief and awe in his tone. Just like that. Children do that, Mara said softly. They see love before they see guilt. He nodded, then looked at her, really looked. What about you? Can you forgive me too? Mara hesitated. I already did. But Henry, she took a breath, I can't stay here forever pretending to be just a maid. He looked down. I know. I love Sandy, she said, voice trembling. And I care about you more than I ever meant to. But if we build something, it has to be honest, no secrets, no guilt between us. Henry took a step closer. Then stay. Not as a maid. As part of this family. Her breath caught. You mean that? He smiled, a real, steady smile this time. Evelyn asked me once if I believed in second chances. I think she just gave me mine. As the sun dipped low, Henry knelt in the garden beside Sandy, helping her water the flowers. Mara watched from the porch, her heart full, her eyes glistening. When Henry looked up and met her gaze, he didn't look like the billionaire everyone feared. He looked like a man reborn. He walked over, wiping his hands on a cloth, and took hers. You taught me how to live again, Mara. She smiled through her tears. And you taught me that even broken hearts can bloom. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. So what's your answer? Mara exhaled, whispering, Yes. Do you believe people can truly change after confessing their darkest truth, or does the past always linger? Tell us what you think in the comments below. The wind shifted through the roses, as if carrying Evelyn's laughter through the air. And for the first time in years, the house on the hill didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt like home. Spring came early that year. The mansion on the hill, once quiet and heavy with grief, now hummed with music, laughter, and the scent of blooming roses. Windows were open again. Curtains fluttered like wings. The air no longer carried sorrow, only renewal. Mara stood in the garden, helping Sandy tie ribbons around the rose stems. The child's laughter floated across the lawn like bells. Miss Mara, she said, squinting playfully, guess what color this ribbon is? Mara smiled. Pink. Sandy giggled. Nope. Yellow. Like sunshine. Mara froze for a heartbeat, then slowly knelt, her voice trembling. You can see that? Sandy grinned from ear to ear. I told you my eyes were getting better. Now I can see faces and colors. The doctor said it's a miracle. Mara's eyes filled with tears as she pulled the little girl into her arms. Oh, sweetheart, you're the miracle. From the porch, Henry watched them, a soft smile breaking through his usual calm. For the first time in years, the shadows under his eyes were gone. He walked down the steps and joined them. What are my two favorite girls up to? Daddy. Sandy ran to him, waving a flower. Look, I picked Mommy's favorite color. He crouched beside her, brushing his thumb over her hair. Your mother would love this. She always said yellow meant hope. And now we have lots of that, Sandy said brightly. Mara smiled at them both, a sight that felt like home, like destiny finally writing itself. That evening, the mansion was alive with guests, staff, neighbors, even old friends who had once stopped visiting after Evelyn's death. Henry had opened the doors again, hosting a small celebration to honor new beginnings. The grand piano stood in the center of the hall, polished and waiting. Sandy stood beside it, hands clasped nervously. "What if I mess up, Daddy?" Henry smiled softly. "Then you'll start again. That's how life works." Mara knelt beside her. "Play from your heart, Sandy. That's all that matters." The little girl nodded, then began to play. The melody filled the room. Soft, pure, full of warmth. Every note seemed to glow with light. And as the song grew, something extraordinary happened. Sandy's eyes widened. "Daddy, Miss Mara, I can see you both clearly now." The room went silent. Tears spilled down Henry's face as he whispered, "You can?" She nodded eagerly, laughing. "You look happy, Daddy. Really happy." Mara clasped her hands over her mouth, weeping quietly. The miracle had come full circle, not through medicine, but through love and truth. Henry gathered his daughter in his arms, whispering, "You've brought back everything I thought I lost." And Sandy smiled through her tears. Mommy said love fixes everything. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the moon had risen, Henry sat by the fireplace with Mara beside him. He pulled out the letter Evelyn had written, the one Mara found hidden in the study. "May I?" he asked quietly. Mara nodded. He unfolded the paper, his voice soft but steady as he read. "Tell them it's okay to live again, even if I am gone." He looked at Mara, eyes shimmering. She knew this would happen somehow, that someone would come and bring us back to life. Mara smiled faintly. Maybe she didn't mean someone. Maybe she meant love itself. Henry reached over and took her hand. "Then love has a name now." Days turned into weeks. The house became a place of laughter and sunlight. Sandy's vision continued to improve. Her piano playing filled the halls daily. One golden afternoon, Mara walked into the garden and found Henry kneeling by the roses. He looked up with that quiet smile that always melted her heart. "You know," he said, "these roses only bloomed this bright after you came." Mara laughed lightly. "You give me too much credit." "No," he said gently. "You gave us life again." Then, from behind his back, he pulled out a small velvet box. Mara froze. "Henry." He opened it. A simple ring, elegant and glinting like morning dew. "I know we both come with scars," he said softly, "but maybe that's what makes this real. I don't want to erase the past anymore. I want to grow from it. With you." Mara's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "Are you sure?" He smiled. "I've never been sure of anything." Sandy, who had been hiding behind a bush, squealed, "Say yes, Miss Mara." Mara laughed through her tears and nodded. "Yes, Henry. 1,000 times yes." Henry stood, slipping the ring onto her finger. "Welcome home, Mara." And as he kissed her, gentle, full of promise, Sandy clapped her hands and shouted, "Mommy's smiling from heaven." They all laughed, and for the first time, laughter didn't echo in sadness. It stayed warm and real. Weeks later, the mansion was transformed. The garden was fuller, the rooms brighter, the air lighter. Henry and Mara worked side by side, she helping with Sandy's lessons, he reading bedtime stories. At night, they'd sit on the porch, holding hands as the stars shimmered. Sandy's laughter would float through the house, her piano melodies now effortless and strong. The once haunted mansion had become what Evelyn wished for, a place filled with love again. This story began in darkness. A child blind, a father burdened, a stranger carrying her own wounds. But love, when honest, brings light back where it once was lost. What does forgiveness mean to you? Do you think love can truly rewrite a painful past? Share your thoughts below. Your story might help someone heal, too. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-healing stories. Sometimes, love is a light that opens eyes, even the ones that were never meant to see. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video red heart, share it with someone who believes in miracles, and comment your thoughts below. Your story might inspire someone else to heal too. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories every week. Because every heart has a story worth telling.